Hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody, and happy Monday. Aggro here joining you to break down what you're going to see on a console Monday. But first, I want to let you know that you have to go to highresexpo.com and get your tickets right now if you want to end up joining us for the best part of the entire SMITE year. It's the SMITE World Championships at DreamHack Atlanta. Make sure you get your tickets. It's coming up real soon. It's like next month. Almost. Crazy to think about, so make sure you get your tickets as soon as you can, because all these teams are trying to punch their tickets by way of passing this placement week. We're in phase 2 right now. That's on the left side of your screen, all in the name of getting to placement week, November 3rd through the 8th. All the top SCL teams are going, but then they're going to need to play against each other in order to try and fit themselves into that placement week bracket, where only 2 teams from the SMITE Console League will end up competing there. If they can then get through placement week, they will also be playing at the SMITE World Championships, which is at DreamHack Atlanta, November 15th through the 17th. So not only do you have to get at the top of your region, but then you need to win at placement week twice. You got to beat other console teams, and you got to beat low-end SPL teams and the SMITE minor league squads, and it's going to be a big challenge. So it starts with winning your regular season division, and we're going to start with PlayStation 4 and the European side of things. Arial Arise, who you're going to see today, they are at the top of the standings right now, trying to stay ahead of Outcold Gaming, who got a chance to play against some of those same teams that will be at placement week in Phase 1 of the Midseason Invitational. Today we're going to open up with Arial Arise versus VGSGods. Now for Xbox, Rival is going to go. I don't think there's any way that they cannot make it through to the placement weeks. So today we're going to see Dabo's Disciples up against Team Jellyfish, but that's just in the name of improving and getting ready for next season. Dabo's Disciples has been a very good team and one that should be pretty fun to end up looking at today. So make sure you stay tuned. Now, if you missed last week, a lot of great console action happened. Take a look.
Previously on the SMITE Console League.
Hello, hello, welcome in. Happy Monday to all of you out there, and I hope you're ready for a great Console League day. I'm Aggro, I'll be introducing what we've got going on today.
And so now we get ready for Outcold versus VGSGods. So this is a pretty important set if they can win.
Absolutely. Taking this one will absolutely change the way the standings look right now, but more importantly than that, I'm looking for the quality on the field. I definitely want to see where these guys lie as far as their actual competitive nature is and where it winds up.
Pouring in for the right Titan at half HP. There's the Forensic popped as well, and Outcold get it done 2-0 over VGS.
VGSGods were totally bringing out what they needed to play defense, and all it took was one team fight. If VGSGods were able to delete the opposition off of a bad incursion, they could turn around, walk up mid, and take the game.
I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. We got Nick. We pulled him out of the realm, at least for one day here for some Console League action. I'm excited to have you.
Not if Jamel the Camel has anything to say about it. Bacchus is up as well, but Trevor gets toasted there in a matter of seconds there. It looks like it will be it for Team Rival. They surge onto the Titan, clean it up in seconds. They do it with style as well, but without a little bit more resistance, I think, from Team Jellyfish.
Roughly 22 seconds more resistance that time.
So I have Tom F. Badger right here next to me as we move into Big Money versus EBOG.
EBOG have to play a little bit differently. This team has been a squad that can find wins here and there. The set wins have been a little bit more difficult to bring home, but at the end of the day, I've enjoyed what EBOG has been able to do around certain picks. So beautiful play there for Big Money Esports. EBOG not as successful as game number 1 with respect to trying to fight it back. Big Money Esports 31-16, I think, tells the majority of the story.
Alrighty, we'll get into picks and bans here in just a moment. See what Fatal Ambition are able to do against the current reigning champions. The 2-0 there, hype unit, great stuff there, but I gotta say, overall very, very impressed by their opponents as well, being able to take the lead multiple times in that game despite having such a rough start.
It is SMITE Console League time. You all got just the right amount of aggro, and then we got him out of here. That was perfect. A little bit of teaser aggro for you all coming in later. My name is Finch. I'm joined by Anatoly, oCxnnahh here on the desk. And as always, we're starting off with PS4 EU, specifically Arial Arise, up against VGSGods.
Arial Arise, almost a shoo-in to qualify towards the high-res expos with a current 6-2 standings. Only OCG right under them at 5-3. Every match still matters with 4 more to go.
That's right. As long as Arial Arise continue to take care of business, instead of Outcold, who we got to know last year, they were the ones that came in as your MSI representatives, not last year, but last phase. It could very well be Arial Arise. Love to see some growth here in this region. Well, Toli, this matchup, as you said, is still important. One that I expect to be a pretty good one. VGSGods have been a bit inconsistent, but they certainly have had their bright spots here for me. They've been able to keep this team largely intact as well. I expect them to give Arial Arise a pretty good match.
They definitely should, as VGSGods are still in it mathematically. They can end up at 7-5. They need a little bit of luck for Arial Arise to kind of lose out, as well as OCG Blue. The weak matchup to really watch out for is that week 12 OCG up against Arial Arise, but so far, Arial, they are on a 6-week winning streak, so this is going to be a tough challenge for VGS.
They have figured something out, man. I always do find myself kind of coming back to SARPEII and OIIy and that mid-jungle synergy here for this team as being particularly strong. We'll see if that ends up being the case this time. I always say when first pick ends up being the one that bans Persephone, that does worry me a bit. I feel as though that you can leave Persephone, Set, and Isis and try and force second pick to ban all those out and have the threat of taking any one of them, but look like that's not going to be the play here from VGS.
They're probably going to be leaning on some Hunter Pressure middle. A Musin Cobb is a nice little comfort pick, I think,
Still
for
good.
a lot of console players. Thor is still available. Normally, Isis is first picked if that's available, but you're giving up Thor now, maybe Kronos, and a Musin Cobb.
Yeah, not too surprised to see the Isis be first picked here, but as you said, Thor's still out there for Arial Arise. That'll make a pretty potent response pick, and it certainly will be the first response to them from Arial Arise. I imagine they will be giving that right to SARPEII, as I mentioned, in the jungle role for them to try and control the game, and the Olorun going to be coming through as well. A bit vulnerable, but Thor's one of the ones I feel like that's pretty good at punishing him. Maybe a Guan Yu jungle you have to worry about, but they should feel pretty good about these first two picks.
Olorun definitely less vulnerable when you're the one with the global pressure.
Agreed.
So your jungler should be kind of assisting that long lane to win that 1v1 matchup.
Or at least make sure that this Olorun's not getting picked on over there if there are repeated ganks. Horus and Vamana to come in next. And I think Barracuda kind of has spoken about this matchup already, in particular, Olorun into this Vamana, and how none of your tools really help you get away from the big baby.
Yeah, good luck trying to run away from the Colossal Fury. Even in Sanctified Field, you're going to be CC immune. Although Osiris is a nice little touch to counter the Vamana in two ways. Number one, the 100% anti-healing through Lord of the Afterlife. And then on top of that is the Judgment Tether to at least reduce some of the damage from Vamana, as he will stick to the Olorun.
So that gives them three very strong picks, I would say, here for Arial Arise, even with that Vamana potentially being a problem here for this Olorun. We'll see if that does go all the way over into the long range. Perhaps they'll let Distortion play this, or if they'll give it to OIIy there in the middle lane, or if they'll have OIIy piloted in the long lane. There's a couple of combinations nowadays, so we'll see which way Arial Arise choose to play it. I like this Guan Yu ban too, especially if you expect this Vamana to be short lane, then you're worried about Guan Yu jungle still sitting on the Olorun, so you ban that out.
Something that Layers of Death has introduced a lot in the console world is that Guan Yu jungle, and with Isis and Horus already there, that's a lot of team sustain. You got Vamana for the self-sustain. There's going to need to be more anti-healing options coming through from Arial Arise.
Well, now they have this Najah. The ring bounce can apply something like a Brawler's Beat Stick particularly well, but if this is Najah support, as I think it is, we might see him building a bit differently. But I think this gives them a ton of early presence, a Thor and a Najah, and they still have one more pick here in the carry role to round this draft out, and they could definitely be boxing early.
That's true. Olorun should be going in the carry role. I don't like Olorun in mid, and with the Chang'e, that's a very safe pick, so it doesn't really matter where you go in the long lane between Olorun or the Chang'e.
Yeah, it really looks to me like what they're trying to do is make sure that you don't have anyone that you can make a viable target. The best one is the Olorun, but if they kind of tuck him away into the long lane, then the Vamana really won't be able to get to him. But now this Jormungandr's locked in, I suppose it is Vamana in the jungle.
It feels that way at the very least, right? We haven't really seen the Jorm jungle or the Horus jungle, and I like the Chang'e last pick for the anti-healing.
I'm right there with you. VGSGods and Arial Arise, you're going to keep us right here with you as we move into game number 1 for the action. So far, everything went about where we expected. Distortion is going to be taking the Olorun into the long lane, with OIIy having that Chang'e mid, and Drizzle is in the Vamana jungle as we expected.
I was always curious to see if Soul Laners would start this little tactic of proxying between the tier 2 and the Phoenix of the long lane because of the little spirit minion, right? It strips it away from your own side, sure, but because you can teleport back to your own lane, Let's see what he picks up. A couple of potions. Now he's going to teleport back to the short lane, so he's not going to miss out on any farm. He'll hit level 2 very quickly.
Distortion, though, is getting bullied a bit here by Drizzle, who stepped up, but Ollie right there for some return damage. He caught a lot from the minions. If this first ability comes back up, it's first blood in the middle lane. Might not have minded letting Pulsza have that one too, but it certainly doesn't hurt for the Chang'e.
No real comeback potential for ECLPTX. Being only level 1 on the ice is good pressure, not really respecting, I think, any sort of momentum there. That's a dropped death very early for no reason.
I agree, very unnecessary there from Drizzle. I think he just caught too much minion aggro. He probably wasn't expecting he's going to take that much damage. But like you said, if you're going to be aggressive in that mid 2v2, then you do need to understand, you know, exactly how much damage you can take and what your timings are a little bit better. Again, a bit unforced there from Drizzle.
And I like the rotation even from Pulsza. He was covering the option. Like, all of a sudden, this level 1 support Nausea coming from our side of the jungle. So even if he went towards his tower, he would have had to back anyway. He would have lost a lot of farm. I think the idea was to at least get the back camps farm, but Pulsza wasn't going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, it looks like what Pulsza was able to do, they stole a speed and a red buff, but it cost them a purple. You can see one on Hacky and one on Marky Sparky, so they... obviously, there is some trouble for Distortion there in the long lane. He is getting outpushed by this Jing. You certainly expect that, but everything else has been controlled by Arial Arise here so far throughout this early game. I mean, it's not just that first blood, man. Losing the jungle hurts too.
It's just a numbers advantage. Look at that, 5 buffs versus 2. I'll trade both purples, honestly, for
probably the least impactful early.
And speed. Yeah, speed buff this early on allows you so much momentum. Pulsza can rotate wherever he wants. He already gets movement speed bonus by just using the ring bounce off of minions, off of enemy gods, so you give him the speed buff as a support. Now he's having a field day, being 1 level above Hacky.
And Kana also having a really good time here ahead of this Jormungandr by a lot, almost 200 experience per minute that this Osiris is out in front too. These blue buff invades really starting to hurt for Bevy here so far. Plus, remember, Kana did the proxy you mentioned as well, stealing some of that farm, I suppose, away from Distortion, honestly.
And because of his start, it allows them to be aggressive, knowing that they don't necessarily have to lean too much on the long lane to clear that wave. It's already cleared before they even reach the middle.
Uh-oh. This is a trap here, Tolly. And I don't think Bevy's going to recognize it. He does. He does start to move back towards the tower, but still hit by the sash. In comes SARPEII as well with the spin, and that's the second kill. Bevy ends up going down, and Drizzle just gets there too late.
Sometimes you got to make a threat before you actually activate the threat. And the threat was the blue buff invade, so that's the second one in a row that this Guardian is not going to be able to receiving. And as a Guardian, you're really relying more on your abilities than your basic attacks to clear the wave. I think the only exception, though, is Jormungandr in general because of his AoE splash.
Exactly right. Not only that, but because he had to teleport back in the lane, he's going to miss a timing. Kana's going to be able to back on a power spike for likely the Glad Shield. Berserker we see sometimes, but Glad Shield more often. And then he'll have a big advantage to fight here over Bevy, whereas Bevy will have to find timing to walk back, essentially, after taking the back, walk back into lane. So it just continues to spill in Arial Arise's favor here so far.
I like that Kana's staying a little bit. Like, sure, he could finish Glad Shield right now and maybe get tier 1 boots, but why not stay a little bit longer for at least tier 2 boots and
he's got
potentially a health chalice. Yeah, like, as long as you can trade out your health pool with Bevy now, you're going to have teleport. Bevy doesn't. You come back with full health now, full potions potentially, and all of a sudden Bevy's going to have to back and walk back to lane, losing more experience in gold.
It looks like despite what we saw from Obey, everyone's starting with their Guardian's Blessings and Assassin's Blessings here this time. That might be a Weakened in Mineral special. I was wondering if we might start to see that kind of trickle down a little bit more. Some other players want to be aggressive, but hold that thought. Ollie ready to kick things off with a huge Waxing Moon in the middle lane. SARPEII follows up, and that's 2 in favor of Arial Arise.
Stuns, one chases down the other. That's the way you min-max your Thor global pressure, baby.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and this is just a hot start from Arial Arise. And we were saying that, Tully, that between this Nausea and this Thor, there was so much potential that Arial Arise would get off to a hot start. But I know Ollie was playing to be such a big part of it too.
It takes everyone. It takes a village to raise a family, right? Or vice versa, something like that, as Kana set up everybody by proxying between that tier 2 and the Phoenix, as Ollie has been all over the place, following up from Pulsza and SARPEII.
And a great follow-up here so far on this Chang'e. Kana looking to get more aggressive, but not going to make it in Still the back harpies. They'll just settle, quote unquote, for this blue buff as Kana takes away yet another one. The dash off the mark, but Pulsza doesn't have the Windfire wheels. He's still going to be in trouble. Great Spirit Ball there from ECLPTX, and that should spell the end for Pulsza. But no, a two-man stun. He avoids even more damage. Finally, Pulsza does end up falling, but maybe there's a chance that Kana can find a trade.
They need to find something here. I like the pressure that VGSGods did there, knowing that Ollie didn't have ultimate. SARPEII as well used that Anvil of Dawn in the mid lane. There was a timing window to exploit out Arial Arise's aggression at that blue buff. Now, it was stripped away, sure, but losing out your Najah support, not the end of the world. Hacky 96, not gaining too much momentum off of it, and you're not really counter-stripping the blue buff. I would have liked to see VGS maybe go for the enemy blue after that pick.
Goodness, another Waxing Moon from Ollie in the mid lane. It's too much damage. Isis can do a lot of things well, but I don't know about getting away from that big stun.
I agree. Once you're done receiving the stun, though, from the Waxing Moon, I'm surprised that this Isis didn't drop that Circle of Protection right at her feet to at least mitigate the follow-up damage, maybe get some healing, even though you're getting about 50% anti-healed by the Chang'e. That's still something.
I wonder if that's what we're seeing more of it, if there's some potential there for a bit of a counter matchup. Sash and Pulsza land has the Windfire wheels this time, but Marky Sparky still has Aegis and the ultimate, so patience from Pulsza. I don't know, I think maybe force one of those cooldowns, but in the end, Marky Sparky gets to walk away.
Yeah, I would have liked to see maybe an ultimate there. I think there was a lot of mind games between Pulsza and Marky.
Felt like it.
Pulsza was waiting for the beats. Marky was like, well, if you ulti me, I'll be healthy enough and I can just use my airstrike away once I land. Knowing this level 7 Olorun's damage power spike is not that high, I like that patience for Marky Sparky. Even if he ate the Najah ultimate, I don't think Distortion had kill potential before the airstrike at least goes off.
Marky Sparky correctly responding to the aggression there from Pulsza, and that means he'll hold on to the Aegis and onto the airstrike as well. And now look at this, he's investing in a Sentry Ward on the left-hand side. Wants to be sure if SARPEII or Pulsza are coming.
A lot of blue buff invades earlier, but now it's going to start transitioning over towards the red buff. SARPEII making this rotation as well. Not even interested in poking out the mid lane.
Well, the more you can force this level 8 Ollie to fight into this level 6 ECLPTX, I think they're down Drizzle into the Colossal Fury, and that's going to happen to Distortion all game. There's really no way to get away from it. Waxing Moon is good, but Pulsza can't find anything with the Windfire wheels. He's now dropped as well. Marky Sparky answers back, but SARPEII not let one to go out answered, able to take down ECLPTX. A knock up there into SARPEII, but Ollie's going to need some backup.
Uh-oh, Hacky needs to find a teammate to dash to. Gonna try to run
Wow.
away. Yes, he does finally find a Drizzle, but how can you get away from the Anvil of Dawn?
It's just not going to be easy. Ollie might be able to kill him in between, and then he can pick a different target. But because that last bit of damage was in there, SARPEII does come down to confirm Hacky, and I think they end up making it a 2 for 3, 2 for 2.
Something like that. As
Yeah.
I like the read from Marky Sparky. He anticipated the Windfire wheels from Pulsza without even the sash, so he avoids that, finds the kill on top of it. Distortion goes down early in that exchange because of how isolated he was. He was not expecting VGS to collapse on him, and this is the one downfall of Olorun, is even though you can change the impact of a team fight with your ultimate alone, when you're surrounded like that without any sort of peels, it's hard to get away.
It certainly is. I think that VGSGods just kind of made the call to stop trying to contest a red and just get their picks where they could. And it did work for them for a moment, but that's where they start to run into some problems because of how well this mid-jungle combination is done. And I wish that I hadn't said it exactly how it was going to go, but SARPEII and Ollie very often get the job done for Arial Arise, and it is yet again the case here.
They definitely are, and I love to see this kind of mid-jungle synergy. Good stun out to SARPEII to prevent him from teleporting onto that hammer, but I think Hacky biting off more than he could chew.
I don't know about that Waxing Moon commitment there. As long as there's someone over the wall, Horus always gets away. Drizzle forced into Colossal Fury. This buys him some time as a 2-man Spirit Ball comes out into the Circle of Protection. Just not going to find much on the tail end. Another nice pick for Arial Arise.
Very late ultimate coming through from this Isis yet again. Might have actually saved out Drizzle, seeing how that Kana's ultimate wasn't accurate, so there was no real anti-healing outside of Ollie's healing, so slightly missed opportunity.
SARPEII is considering moving down towards the enemy speed buff, but instead will catch ECLPTX. Even just a good wall will spell the end here for the Isis player. No chance of survival, and Windfire Wheel still waiting, so Hacky will come right back down into a world of hurt. But how do they keep the CC chain going? They do it with the Anvil of Dawn. Hacky falls as well for 2 more picks.
At 10 minutes, to have Brawler's Speed Stick already completed for SARPEII, he's got the momentum going in his favor, not only for himself, now his teammates are going to take those 2 picks, take their talents over to the Gold Fury.
They certainly will. Down to Miami, Florida, perhaps is where they'll take their talents, as now they drop the Sanctified Field. It doesn't keep Marky Sparky out, but don't worry, the Waxing Moon handles that. Arial Arise grab the Gold Fury and a kill, and they send Drizzle on his way.
Arial Arise are so good about min-maxing their abilities. The Waxing Moon not only hits the Gold Fury, but stops Marky Sparky from doing anything. Didn't even get off the airstrike. If he can read that ability the same way he read Pulsza's Windfire Wheels, he would have used the airstrike maybe to at least look for a steal. As I was also looking at SARPEII, the way he was able to min-max his Anvil of Dawn. Not on the kill onto Hacky, but earlier, that little tower dive that he did onto Drizzle.
I mean, and that's why Ollie picked that timing that he did on the Waxing Moon, I feel like, because Marky Sparky wants to save the airstrike to give him a chance to contest, and then even if he doesn't get it, a relatively clean escape. But Ollie, a little bit ahead of time with that Waxing Moon, didn't give that opportunity over to Marky Sparky and punishes him. And that's the beat as well, 110 seconds for him, same for Drizzle. Even if VGSGods do take this next fight, I don't know if they're really in the best position without their beats.
It's starting to really slip out of VGS's fingertips to have any sort of control this game. With this kind of disparity, only at 11 minutes in, you're normally like, okay, we can maybe fight on the opposite side of the map, maybe look for some split push potential, but now you have to deal with the Thor global pressure, the mobility from Pulsza's Najah is not going to let you a moment to breathe.
Well, a nice small win there for Marky Sparky as he grabs both of the Oracles, but Hacky has found himself a 2-man knockup. 4 members here, but Waxing Moon hits 3 from Ollie yet again. But still, Arial Arise not quite on the front foot here. They force out 3 of VGSGods, but Pulsza has a target, brings Drizzle right back down to the damage that's awaiting from Distortion. SARPEII unstoppable.
Even though there were no kills from Ollie's Waxing Moon, it set up so much AoE damage with the ring bounces from Pulsza. Those 3 VGS members were all forcing him to retreat, leaving Drizzle high and dry to leave him to his own devices in a bad 1v3, 1v4 position.
And remember, I said just coming into that fight, none of them had beads, so that means the full duration, especially for that 3rd member, as he was stunned, SARPEII comes in to try and catch out this Jormungandr. Maybe not perfect on that execution there, but they'll get the kill anyway. When you're up nearly 7,000 gold, you can afford to make a few mistakes.
That just goes to show how far ahead Arial Arise are, not just in the gold category by having Transcendence on top of the Brawlers for your Thor jungle, but also the level advantage. Level 13, not even 13 minutes in for your jungler, a little unheard of at this phase of SMITE.
Yeah, SARPEII is having a field day here at this point, and he's being helped substantially by Ollie on this Chang'e, who's leading all players in terms of player damage at this point in the game. SARPEII will just grab his own speed back there. Nothing particularly exciting, but as you said, everyone on Arial Arise is so far ahead. Even Kana over Bevy, and Kana hasn't even been involved in that many fights.
Definitely not, but I think the constant blue buff pressure, that little 1 proxy farm, even this 1 last death is giving him so much experience now, where even though like the less levels you are, then you're receiving less experience for those kills. The minions are what's really starting to cash in for Arial.
Pulsza continuing to hunt on this right-hand side. Drizzle a little bit early for this blue buff spawn, but I suppose you got to be early if you don't want to be late. Pyromancer now being looked at by Arial. They've given up on perhaps this blue buff, and I think they get this Pyro for free.
It seems
no one's around.
Yeah, I think this is a clean objective now. Hard for VGS to really contest it, and honestly, you don't want to contest such a minor objective. Like, that mobility only lasting for a minute, you're just going to use that to get back to the wave anyway. If you lose that objective and a couple of members, there could have been a fire giant.
Pulse is finally in some trouble, has to use Windfire Wheels defensively, and SARPEII takes that as his cue. Waxing Moon and the wall work together, and Ecliptix is sent back to base. Now Drizzle's the next one in a little bit of trouble. Even in the Colossal Fury, he's being hunted, being hit by the ring bounce, the basic attacks, and SARPEII finds one more. Let someone else have some kills. It's only Kana that's having fun.
Drizzle just can't even out-heal the damage. There was no anti-healing on him, but it's still just not enough for this level 10 Vamana to escape. And this Isis just can't survive. No use of the beads, no use of the circle of protection. In a competitive game, you're picking this Isis for that reason, to get off your ultimate, to bait the enemy team to come into your ultimate and just mitigate that damage, pop the heal, and pop the damage.
So often Isis can ensure that you win the 3v3 or can ensure that you get objectives. But VGSGods from minute one never even had that chance. This game started off with a double kill in middle for Arial Arise, and they've been behind in the entire map since then. I mean, I thought coming in that based on what we've seen from VGS, this could potentially be a closer match, but this has been a rout so far in favor of AA.
And I think the problem was the picks and bans. Even though VGS got Ice's first pick, they paired it up with a Vamana jungle, which doesn't have the greatest synergy when you're dealing with a Thor in the jungle and another CC setup with a Chang'e once you get level 5.
This Chang'e pick, I think, really might have caught VGSGods a bit off guard, a really strong last pick to come in for AA as they start to posture around the Gold Fury, or rather the Primal. There won't be any secrets here. Vision belongs to the Order side team, but seeing is not the same thing as believing, and I don't believe they can stop this from going down.
Yeah, unless Bevy Monster can do something underground while he's unseen, pops back up, won't have that cooldown for a little bit longer. Great zoning from SARPEII and Kana, but Hacky's in the skies.
He's in the sky. They are indeed going to commit to trying to stop this. They've brought in all 5 members, but Waxing Moon yet again hits multiple people. ECLPTX is already low, and Kana finds the kill credit. Drizzle in some trouble as well. Does get around the wall on the backside, but he's now isolated. 3 members of VGS trying to defend, but Lord of the Afterlife dunks on one. Marky Sparky responds with the airstrike.
SARPEII going to take out Drizzle way in the background as the World Serpent going to escape into safety as well. Pulsza chasing out Hacky. No tier 2 tower for safety, needing to hide under that Phoenix, but at least VGSGods, with that little play, strip away the Fury with that circle of protection.
It looks like they must have, and Primal Fury is at least give them something to fight for later on in the game. That wall from SARPEII cuts him off, but he teleports the hammer and does enough with the basics. SARPEII not to be denied even by his own wall, as now it's Fire Giant and it's already at half HP.
SARPEII is doing 195 damage basic attacks to a Jormungandr that has over 100 physical protection with his build.
Yeah, SARPEII's level 16, man. He's just so fed at this point. Marky Sparky Aegis does allow him to survive as that Fire Giant in the background, a bit of a foregone conclusion. Aegis from SARPEII lets him live through that wind gust.
You don't want to give up a death when you're 10-0-6. That's a lot of gold and a lot of experience Marky Sparky would have received, and that's all it takes to kind of still stay relevant in the game, is if your Hunter can get, let's say, the Deathbringer or the Rage, whatever Marky is building for, to play defense on these Phoenixes.
He's the only member of VGSGods that's at a relevant level. Everyone else is so far out of the rearview mirror, you wouldn't even see them. Level 16 for Marky Sparky, actually ahead of Distortion, and as you said, is going to start to have some crit coming in for him now to try and help out. I just don't think that Marky Sparky is going to quite be enough by himself. They're going to need some 6 setup for him and a little bit more farm if that's the win call.
Oh my god. Drizzle almost dead. SARPEII wants this kill so badly. In the Colossal Fury, going to sustain a little bit, gets a shield. It's not enough. That's not enough at all.
He's now immortal at 11-0-6 Heartseeker because I guess he didn't have enough power before.
Sure.
So now he's doing percent damage on those abilities as well. That's probably helping all that chunk.
Yeah, he is 1 kill or 1 assist away from being 90% kill participation, by the way.
That's so much. It's been a monster performance here from SARPEII, and he has games like this all the time, especially when Ollie is in form, as he is here today as well. They feel sometimes like an unstoppable combination here on PS4 EU in games just like this. VGSGods really might even be worth trying to decide what they do in picks and bans to not let this happen again, because this game's getting further and further out of reach.
Normally when a team wins and you see the highlight player slash signs, their KDAs are around 3.5 or better. Like 3.5 to about 5 is like, okay, that was a good game for you.
Right.
Anything above 5 KDA is absurd. And SARPEII right now is sitting at 14 KDA.
That's a bit ludicrous sash off the mark there from Pulsza, but makes up for it with the Windfire Wheels that gets the beads out from Drizzle. Pulsza does get pushed into the damage from Marky Sparky, but even an Najah can shrug off those tiny shots at this point. It's a rage from Marky Sparky. I mean, it's much, much cheaper, but it's also kind of a later game investment.
It is, and I don't see VGSGods getting the kills or the assists to stack up that rage, but the window of opportunity is slowly closing for VGS. They need anything they can get to hold this titanic force, which is Arial Arise.
4 of them in the right lane. They still have SARPEII in mid, and looks like the call is actually to fall back. They've got another minute 20 on this Fire Giant buff, so they certainly could push with it if they felt like it. Maybe the idea is Pyromancer back and maybe get 1 siege in.
That golden hand, over 3,000
Yeah.
from Kana, 2,400 from Distortion, 22 from SARPEII. This is a very disciplined call from Arial Arise. Even though they were kind of chasing Drizzle under that Phoenix, they didn't commit under the Phoenix, whereas most teams with a 19-3 lead might have done so. Even some SPL teams with a lesser lead would kind of, showboat a little bit from time to time, but not Arial Arise, and this is what it takes if you're trying to qualify towards the high-res expo.
You're exactly right, man. I mean, and the placement week is going to be a challenge in its own right, a grind for some of these players, so making sure that you have as much practice playing fully focused and all in as possible is what's going to help, because right now, barring a mistake from Arial Arise, they are the favored ones to make it as the representative from PS4 EU.
They definitely are, and I like the item pickup from Ollie as well. The Shield of Regrowth just getting a little bit faster. Drizzle, no Colossal Fury. SARPEII not taking that teleported hammer for the Berserker Barrage follow-up. A little surprising there. Just going to wait out for this Fury, it seems.
Yeah, this Vamana hasn't gotten to do anything, it felt like, this game. I think he got a 1 kill onto Distortion in a very early red buff fight, and since then, nothing.
Oh no, the solo tower, Finch on the right side.
Oh, it's also being threatened?
Kinda lost the wave.
Oh, well, you hate to see it. I guess that's what that meant. I guess you're right.
Yeah, you lose the tower, you lose the lane.
Them's the rules.
That's the rules. I don't make them up.
They've been written in the SMITE bylaws. Arial Arise do indeed find that Oni Fury. And as I was saying before, I do think that VGSGods now have to start thinking about what adjustments they can make, and I don't know if it's just the start where this Vamana doesn't quite work out, or if maybe Drizzle just isn't going to be able to perform on it well enough, but clearly that mid 3v3, particularly the jungle mid, just didn't work.
I think everything Arial did to start off was not punished, and as a result, they just had the complete map control, right? Like, proxying between tier 2 and the Phoenix, invading on the right and the left side from your support Naja, collapsing on the Vamana level 1. Vamana's not a god that can afford to be behind that early. Getting first
Agreed.
blooded at the first minute mark is what gave Arial Arise all the map pressure that they could have ever hoped for.
And, I mean, you might say, hey, they got that first purple buff, but that's not a punish. I mean, that's a trade that Arial Arise are happily making.
They're conceding it intentionally so that they can get the more valuable buffs.
You're exactly right. I mean, the Arial Arise in that spot happily, I think, give up the purple if it means that they can take everything else they did. So now the Fire Giant will go down uncontested. A Shifter Shield for SARPEII, which is going to give him just a ton of power on the front end. But then when he needs to make those disengages, he'll have a lot more protections.
Yeah, he's looking like he's probably sitting at about a little over 200 physical power with his current build, so he'll be doing a little bit more than 3% of opponent's maximum health. Wow, with Fire Giant buff, he's actually almost 400 power, sitting at 393. So he's basically doing 6% of a target's health every ability.
Well, if he finishes Bloodforge, which I think he will, it'll get even better. SARPEII doesn't find much here, but does teleport to Hammer and does so much damage. That was just the spin.
Yes.
And Drizzle ends up falling there as well. SARPEII is going to die, but he certainly showed us how much damage he's got.
That was a lot of damage from one ability. 99% of the Isis's health, but that's not going to stop Arial yet.
Yeah, Distortion now in some trouble. Aegis buys in time to get off the Sanctified Field, but now all the VGSGods have started to group up, and that's where Arial Arise can do the most of their damage. Hacky in some trouble on the right-hand side, but that's just Pulsza. It's Ollie that's looking to hunt down ECLPTX, but can't get there. They do take care of Hacky. Only ECLPTX and Bevy left to try and defend.
In a 4-on-2, Arial Arise still very disciplined to not go for the end, realizing Drizzle is about to revive, and without their Thor, they don't want to end quite yet, so they get the guaranteed Phoenix. Wouldn't be surprised if they switch over to the left-hand side, which they are. I don't see how VGS can stop this.
It's such an incredible lead. I remember the respawn timers for VGSGods are also quite low too because of how far behind they are. Waxing Moon forces beads out from ECLPTX, but Bevy goes in aggressive along with Drizzle, but they start to melt. Living comfortably in the back of the fight is Distortion, and now it's time for the return damage. Bevy has to leave as well. That's the third Phoenix down. Arial Arise in full control.
The Titan out of VGS is now at its most vulnerable form as Arial continues to apply a stronger chokehold onto VGS.
Do you think missing Anvil of Dawn and the hammer and the wall is a power move so we can see how much damage the spin does? Do you think that's what that was?
That would be some next level stuff. I don't know if, like, SARPEII is good, Finch. I don't know if SARPEII is that good that
Right.
he wants to flex.
Well, SARPEII will take to the sky, so I guess we'll get a chance to find out. He's made Drizzle his target, and I guess you're right.
One ability.
Couldn't
Just
quite
like
get
that.
him.
Level 16 Vamana already on its last legs. There's just VGSGods having to defend all 3 lanes now worth of fire minions. This is a power play from SARPEII that last Anvil of Dawn.
Exactly. It certainly was. And I mean, I think Spirit Robe is a great pickup into this composition. Obviously,
Oh, yeah.
nearly everything that SARPEII does means that you'll be getting that increased mitigation coming out as well. But it's just too far behind. 4 levels that he's staring down. I mean, only 4 items completed as well. Had to sell off the Blessing. He's just so far behind.
Looks like Arial Arise are now grouping up for their last and final push. They can literally just all in this as long as Kanda uses Lord of the Afterlife to
Can
go
we
in
see
onto the
SARPEII's
Titan.
damage before this ends, Doug? Let me, because he got the Blood Forge. I just want to know.
It's at around 13,000 right now. He's at 392
He's
power.
over it. He's over it when he gets inside the fight. Ollie buys the first kill of the Marky Sparky. It's some trouble way in the backline is Drizzle. He's in Colossal Fury, but melts. That's a double kill now for Ollie, who's divine with 9 in a row. Bevy, at the very least, does punish Distortion, but it's going to cost him his life as well. No way out for the Jormungandr. Here is Ollie, finds his way to a triple kill, and Arial Arise should be able to take this game.
Looking for a quadra kill under the fountain potentially. No, Hacky will be safe alongside the Isis as Arial takes down VGS in game 1.
Yeah, they're going to take their time closing this one out, but hard to imagine they find a way not to win here. SARPEII comes back to us, Hacky in the back. Titan well below half here at this point. A nice wall just to style a little bit as ECLPTX falls to. Here's some of that confidence you want from Arial Arise as they almost get the deicide before they end it.
At 26-26, Arial Arise get 26 kills to the 5 from VGS. A very powerful start.
Yes.
For sure. Kana with the proxying between the tier 2 and the Phoenix, the rotation from Pulsza from the speed to the red, cutting off the pathing from the Vamana that couldn't really do anything that game.
And I think you got to see there from Arial Arise towards the tail end why, or rather from VGS rather, why Arial Arise was showing them some respect. Obviously, they are capable of making those defenses when they're not staring down an unholy lead like they were in that game that was just so much of a deficit they were trying to contend with. Clearly, Arial Arise still giving them some due respect despite a little bit of styling there once the game was already wrapped up. But this is just dominance in the early game. VGSGods have to do something to not let that happen again.
It has to come down to the picks and bans. The Vamana paired up with
Agreed.
the Isis. You got a great CC from the Isis in the early game, but no real follow-up from Vamana. He's more of this mid to late game guy that's going to chase you down with a hastened katana onto this Olorun, but when you get that far behind, your initial game plan to counter the Olorun goes out the window.
Exactly right. Didn't really matter how much he was able to get back there and bully Distortion when the real problems were SARPEII and Ollie, at least in game number 1. It'll be a quick break, and then we'll have game number 2 on the other side.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the SMITE Console League.
Welcome back to the SMITE Console League. It is still Finch here, and we are still in the middle of Arial Arise up against VGSGods. And to be honest, that game one was a bit of a beatdown. Arial Arise in full control that entire match. I have oCxnnahh right here next to me. We're going to keep breaking down this set for you in PS4 EU. And Toli, I mean, something's got to change for VGS here.
Especially now that their lifeline is on everything, right? Like HRX is right around the window. If they lose this one to Arial Arise, they are mathematically out of the equation.
Exactly right. VGSGods absolutely have to do something to try and turn things around. And we talked a little bit about some of the things that didn't work. For Drizzle, I didn't like the Vamana. Obviously, Isis is strong, but you can't afford to fall behind that early. Kana was able to freely proxy between the Phoenix and the Tier 2. Those are all things that you have to try and make some adjustments for here in Picks and Bans and in the beginning of the game.
And like, I didn't mind the Vamana pick. I just minded in the jungle, right? Like, they picked the Vamana and the Jormungandr, trying to be a little too fancy. They could have probably just stuck the Vamana, honestly, in the solo lane, but instead they're trying to get a favorable matchup of Jormungandr versus Osiris, which was heavily countered by that proxy start, by the blue buff invades. So nothing was really clicking, unfortunately, for VGS.
And even when they did try and respond to those blue buff fights, it would take such a commitment to get one occasional kill. Maybe they take down Pulsza. Maybe they could kind of get to Distortion, but they'd end up losing so much to make those kills happen that it wouldn't have been worth it in the first place, considering just how many buffs they were often trading out. So we are in those picks and bans now for games number 2. Hell and Isis banned away by VGSGods, and the Set and King Arthur.
Surprised that the Isis is banned away from VGS, even though they are the ones with the first pick. Normally, you want to first pick it, and I didn't see too much problem having the Isis. I think like the rest of the supporting cast didn't get it done at the end of the day, but going for maybe a Thor pick instead, realizing how powerful SARPEII was.
And Arial Arise not going to turn that pick over to VGSGods. They banned that one away themselves. But we talked about this last game. VGS feeling compelled to ban both the Isis and the Persephone, when usually those are bans you can kind of force over to the second pick, though that might be a conversation for later on. As Thoth comes in first here for VGSGods, who's more often than not in the long lane nowadays. I just don't know if Console's going to be doing all that same stuff.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I'm not sure how Console translate from PC with a Thoth long lane, but this is surprising seeing how Thoth is first picked in this game, where I don't think it was picked or banned in that last previous one.
I don't think so, at least not till the second phase at the earliest in terms of even if it was banned. Susano and Olorun comes through for Arial Arise, and so this is very similar to last game where it was the Thor Olorun, still prioritizing a jungle pick for SARPEII, and then this Olorun, which I imagine they'll give over to Distortion.
This time, there's more CC now from VGSGods with the Ganesha and the Hunbat, the Thoth, good long-range setup, good initial engage as well, plenty of damage on the back line from the Thoth. There needs to be some healing, I think, from Arial Arise, or maybe some damage mitigation.
But already, between the Fear No Evil, between the Ohm from the Ganesha and the Dharmic Pillars, they've already got a lot of better tools, I think, to try and deal with some of this early aggression, as long as we mean post-level 5 on the side of VGSGods. But Horus coming in from Arial Arise gives yet another aggressive early game pick over to Pulsza. He was on the Naja last time, but Horus can come hang out early on too.
Definitely, especially with the To the Skies ultimate post-level 5. I like the idea that Arial has here with this kind of pressure. I want to see something spicy again in the solo lane, but with this Osiris banned away, there needs to be maybe an Achilles locked in for Arial.
And they ban away the Vamana too, maybe from themselves on the side of VGSGods. Don't want that one to come through here again. Arial Arise do still need one more carry and a solo laner, and they'll pick up the Jormungandr here in this spot. We did see Bevy on this one last time, so that's 2 picks that have swapped sides. We'll get to see both Pulsza and Kana show VGSGods, if they can, how to play the picks.
The counter matchup now going to go into the mid lane to see all of VGS's picks before what Ollie is going to play. Last time it was the Chang'e. It's still available if he really wants it. A cripple wouldn't be too bad, though, up against Tira. Moosincob is still available. A great pick to have in the mid lane.
Not bad at all, if that is indeed where the combination will go. But now it is Haboa that comes in for Arial Arise. That gives them even more burst damage right from the middle lane. I mean, the Chang'e doesn't always get thought of in that light, but that's a lot of what was being done last game there by Ollie. So the Haboa can do even more.
As long as they can get off to a very similar start, doesn't have to be the same start, this Haboa should be comfortable.
I'm thinking so too, man. Arial Arise looking to try and confirm that they are indeed that top spot. It's not a fluke. They're coming in and doing work. It's still me and Tollies who get right into the action, but obviously Doug bringing you everything you see here on the screen. Kana is going to go for the proxy yet again, but Marky Sparky's right here this time to answer back, and he's not going to get away with it nearly as easily. In fact, he's getting pretty heavily punished.
A much different story between an Osiris and also the Jormungandr, even the stun as well. Getting a Warrior's Blessing proc to turn around that damage, healing up 40 health and 40 mana. Osiris clears much more effectively than any other level 1, having those basic attack cleaves.
Marky finally gives up on it, feeling as though he would never be able to actually catch up to clean up the kill. Drizzle in some trouble too, as Pulsza is going aggressive here in the jungle. They already have Drizzle down quite low, but Distortion gets it done with one of those very cool basic attacks from Olorun, and they steal the red.
Pulsza didn't connect the knockup, but he gets the slow basic attack afterwards. Distortion was able to find those basic attacks, very important, as Kana does teleport back to the solo lane, picking up more potions to now try to make something happen. Blue buff still available on the right.
You know, and I was thinking to myself in the early game last time, I was like, man, I really felt like Olorun mid for some reasons, because he was in the middle lane at the beginning, because he didn't have to be in long lane after that proxy, and they're doing it again here in this game. Now Distortion rotates over to make sure that he's there for that red buff invade that went so well for them. This start, as long as your solo laner doesn't get punished for the proxy, is pretty tough to answer.
It really is. Drizzle can't even farm the right side camps. He doesn't have speed buff to get away from this, and he's only level 1. He doesn't have the somersault.
Also trying to help from over the wall. He does get the slow. That way SARPEII can stay right in close to get those basics. Drizzle might be in trouble here yet again. I don't see any way out for him. SARPEII finds his first kill of the game as Drizzle falls again.
He was really close to level 2. I think if he stuck with the right side mid camps, we would have probably seen him been able to level up the somersault, jump over the wall, but instead he drops that. He doesn't get the experience, and you can't outrun a jungler with a speed buff when you're sitting without any mobility on your own side.
Especially when Pulse is able to hit slows. That can kind of at times help make up for obviously the basic attack penalty there too, so you can continue the chase.
You just gotta take a gamble sometimes, and in that case, like, you're guaranteed dead if you don't get it one way or the other, so at least try to last hit it.
Drizzle, his woes will continue
not like
as
this.
Pulsza will come to contest him on this speed buff. Looks like Drizzle was able to get it this time, and he hit level 2 off it, so this already improves his life a lot.
More momentum now for this Batz jungle, and he desperately needs to hit that level 5 marker. Hacky now making a rotation, which is good to secure those camps, but it's still split experience now for Drizzle.
Pulsza now is the one that's in trouble. Rotation comes through from ECLPTX as well, so they do punish the Horus for this, but Drizzle has to back again. He doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have any help.
And he has no camps as well. That blue buff was stripped away. Kana's stripping it away. Bevy Monster, as a tier, desperately needs that. There's few warriors that need blue buff tier amongst one of the highest that desperately does.
Exactly right. It's going to be spamming those abilities all game long as SARPEII gets caught out by Hacky on his taking his time stepping into lane. But I will say at this point in game 1, things are already much worse for VGSGods. So even though they are behind here, about 1,000, a little bit under that, this is still a better early game start for them.
Definitely agree with you, Finch. There's going to be a lot of pressure onto Hacky making these rotations to follow wherever Pulsza is going. You can't allow Drizzle to be in a 1v1 against that support because it's going to slow down his farm, and he might have to back prematurely, slowing down that level 5 marker, seeing that he started with Blink. If it doesn't have Fear No Evil, then it diminishes the value of starting Blink.
Exactly right. Oracles go down, but it costs quite a bit of HP for Drizzle to do it. We've always said it feels like Oracles really slap, and they certainly do. Drizzle just catching a little bit of that for him in the jungle. ECLPTX dashing back, but SARPEII lurking over the wall. Okay, this is more about coming to try and steal these XP camps, and they certainly will. Hacky can't stop that.
Level 5 for Ollie as well, so you have to respect this Habwa in the jungle side as VGS are worrisome of how they're going to kind of travel around together. You want to hold hand in hand, but not against the Habwa alongside these corridors. You need the long-range poke. It's up to the Stoff to find the initial poke.
This is a big fight, though. 4 members of VGSGods are here, and this Fields of Love is huge. Coming out from Marky Sparky, but a 2-man Typhoon charged up from SARPEII. ECLPTX is able to get some much-needed damage through. Crushing Wave hits Hacky, but that's about it. They did drop the speed buff down, but Ollie is going to end up falling here as well. Now he's too far forward, juking around, but doesn't have much mana. In comes the Lawbringer, don't even need it. ECLPTX finds that one.
And SARPEII leaving his mid laner high and dry. He was way gone before that fight ended. The speed buff was successfully stripped away, but Arial Arise weren't there to pick it up. And I think Ollie spent too much time trying to line up that crushing wave.
Yes,
put
he wanted
himself
a perfect one.
in the cove to hit out also Marky Sparky, but the Cupid dash was available to get away from that one.
A bit unfortunate for Ollie there that time. So now some of this early aggression finally being answered. And there's a couple of things I feel like that are different here, Tolly, that are working for VGSGods. Is it just the rotation? Is it these picks? How are they slowing down Arial Arise this time?
It's definitely the rotations this time, and it's Arial being a little bit too fancy, trying to get
too much,
the most value out of their abilities. I like the idea of min-maxing your abilities to try to hit more than one target, but sometimes you can't always force that. Sometimes it just has to be naturally presented to you.
This Cupid rotation over for Marky Sparky was great as well. They certainly knew there'd be aggression around the speed buff that time, and that Fields of Love really made life hard for Arial Arise to push in. ECLPTX has had a much, much better game here on this Thoth than on the Isis as well. They put it in the middle lane. We were questioning where it might go, but if ECLPTX's going to play like this, I'll sign off every time.
And because of the non-rotation from Distortion, he's up 800 gold, about a level to level and a half over his opposition.
There's that Fear No Evil from Drizzle you were talking about, but SARPEII is in the Dharmic Pillars. Final Judgment flattens him, and now all of a sudden Pulsza gone in, expecting he'd have backup from a jungler. He's got a full-on retreat. VGSGods giving us the much closer set I was expecting.
This is the accuracy that the Thoth needs to have when dealing with Arial Arise's pressure. Not only connecting on the Susano to blow him up and get him out of the equation, but to connect onto Ollie as well, so that the Hob was a little fearful of going into battle with half health.
VGSGods finally starting to make the plays that they have to make, and that one started with Drizzle finally getting some use out of the blink into the Fear No Evil after he made his long trek to level 5. That split up Arial Arise right away. The Dharmic Pillars was right there to follow up from Hacky. I feel as though they've just done a better job in terms of their drafting with sort of these big kind of AoE abilities that can slow down Arial Arise's pushes.
The Hun Batz that gets behind is still useful as opposed to the Vamana in the previous game, right? Like, Fear No Evil is still going to be Fear No Evil. And when you're behind as a Vamana, you're just running away with Colossal Fury at that point. But at least as a Hun Batz, you can blink in, make those plays. That was the first little taste of what VGS is truly capable of without many items or levels to really speak of. If Arial Arise continue to group up like that and not have the vision to at least know what direction Drizzle is coming from, then I think this is how VGS can come back into the game.
And VGS are a capable team. We said that coming into the set. It's no surprise to me that they're this even with Arial Arise through only 7.5 minutes. But I think there's a bit of Arial Arise bringing in that last game lead here with them too. They need to slow it down and remember that this game is different. There's a much more competitive draft from VGSGods. They're not nearly as far ahead. Just slow it down a bit and play this one outright.
And I think that they will start to do that unless Distortion has something to say about that. Poking out Marky just ever so slightly.
Another Fear No Evil, but this time Drizzle gets caught. SARPEII wants to blink past in using the jet stream, but Drizzle does survive. Final Judgment off the mark this time from ECLPTX, and now he's in some trouble, trying to buy time to get the evade and punish off, but doesn't knock up into Crushing Wave. About as easy a combo as you'll see.
Late beats, unfortunately, coming through as he was knocked up and Crushing Wave. That's not the mechanical plays you need to see out of your Thoth. The last team fight was perfect out of him hitting the Final Judgment, but now not only does he miss that ability, but he also dies in the process, and this is going to be one fed Habwa now.
1-1-1 for Ollie, working on what appears to be the Book of Thoth following cooldown boots. So I would be surprised if it's a little bit longer before he's really in true form with this build path that he's taking, but once he is, good luck trying to fight into him. If you're ECLPTX, you're going to have to do it from range, as the Thoth you are.
Drizzle, I like that aggressive play to jump over and at least confirm one of those mid camps against a support player. Marky Sparky taking a lot of damage on that left side of the map, but I don't really see too much advantage to stretch that into anything, right? Distortion, if he overextends, he might get rotated on.
Home comes out from Hacky that slows down SARPEII's aggression. Even Kana rotated over a bit. They're in proxy farming mode, both he and Bevy, so he has a little bit of time on his hands. But man, I feel like Hobwell's usually the one poking you out in lane, not the other one around. ECLPTX has been a madman.
Yeah, ECLPTX just having the range as a Thoth player, and you need to use that range. We saw, what was it, the Thoth solo lane out of Nika last week up against the Jormungandr, and that just goes to show you how valuable that range could be.
That sounds pretty good to me. Nika also pretty darn good, so I'd trust him with just about anything in his hands as well. I'm right there with you, and the same range that worked for Nika working for ECLPTX here in the middle lane to give them just a much more competitive game this time. But that does mean, without Distortion being that sole focus, he's also having a really good game. He has not rotated very much to these fights, only been a part of 1 kill so far, but now has that Bancroft's Talon finished. He is over that threshold where his power is now contributing to the crit chance.
And with all this action in the mid lane, he's safe to make these aggressive plays. Marky Sparky's now at a point, though, having these hearts a little higher level to at least receive the poke and heal himself back up to stay relevant in the laning phase despite being down about a level.
I also just don't know what Olorun does to get out of the Fields of Love from Marky Sparky. I imagine you just gotta have beads or you're in some trouble. Drizzle, Blink, Fear No Evil, and it perfectly pushed him into the Dharmic Pillars, and now Bevy comes over the wall as well. Crushing Wave from Ollie allows him to reposition, but a nice fight there from VGS to find a pick.
VGSGods abused SARPEII while his beats were still on cooldown for 2 more seconds.
That's
it
crazy.
felt like VGS definitely had that timer in the back of their mind as they were able to make yet again another play in mid, and now Marky getting a little fancy on the left side.
For some steals of his own. Those are the kind of plays VGSGods can make, and now they're feeling confident to start coming over and grabbing the Gold Fury, and so far they're right. Distortion slowly drifting his way over. He does have the Sanctified Field, but that's the Fields of Love. No Arial Arise strip it! Distortion just walks in and throws it, rolls the bowling ball down the lane and knocks them all down, takes the Gold Fury.
Oh, that's such an unfortunate feeling. Oh, you gotta be feeling for VGSGods because they're doing so much better than the last game, and then they drop an objective like that. Sometimes you just gotta drop the final judgment on them.
Yeah, just got to commit everything, to make sure you get it. And, there's so many times where we have the benefit of looking from up top and there's no one around, and Final Judgment still comes through to guarantee it, or some other big mage ultimate. And the reason why is because when you don't have all the information, you got to confirm it. And that time, Pulsza, or not Pulsza, but Distortion just walked up and took it.
Just follow your teammates. If your Cupid Hunter is dropping Fields of Love as a mid laner,
they're not looking to fight, right?
Yeah, use your ultimate on top of it.
Pulsza wants to commit for ECLPTX. He's going to get there perfectly timed. No, it's not. Ollie's the one taking Phoenix or tower damage. That was not perfectly timed at all. Pulsza's got to do work to make sure that Hacky can't catch up to him, so Ollie should be out, and the mistake doesn't get punished.
Marky trying to make a rotation from the left-hand side. No Fields of Love active yet. Bevy making the rotation with his Lawbringer potentially, but he doesn't see Ollie from his positioning.
Doesn't recognize it that Ollie is still running on out of there, so he did exactly what he had to do and kept on retreating. But Bevy blinks in on a Pulsza, Fields of Love, and the Fear No Evil. Good luck getting away from all that. It's like middle school, you're afraid and in love all at the same time. You weren't afraid that you liked other people in middle school?
Love is it's a very powerful emotion, Finch.
Sanctified Field dropped out, but that's a 2-man stun in respawn from BGS. Hacky, Slow, and Distortion finds himself a double, but ECLPTX takes his head. That's going to be another kill for him. Final Judgment brings Kana down to size, but so far a 2-for-1 faving Arial. They'll take a step back and breathe.
VGS definitely feeling frisky, I would say, trying to kill Distortion there as Hacky drops for Marky. Not a favorable exchange. Now Ollie trying to make this a favorable one, but he just doesn't have the range or the capability of out-trading the stuff.
Yo, but that's alpha though, isn't it? He half-healthed him and then you drop the carpet aggressively like I'm still coming. I'd have been afraid if I was ECLPTX. Good work by him to stand his ground there and kind of bully Ollie away.
Ollie just showing ECLPTX his love at the end of the day.
That's what it is, right? It could be a scary thing, as he said. You're trying to figure stuff out, Tolly.
Did you pass notes saying, like, do you like me? Yes, no, maybe, like
yeah,
that? And you were, like, super anxious to see what the response was?
Right, yeah, you pass the note at the end of class, like, second period, you don't see him for third period, but at fourth period, you're like, all right, you better have, read that by now and then made a selection. So, yeah, you'd be nervous. Drizzle, Fear No Evil over the wall there?
I'd be more nervous if the teacher saw the no. Hold that thought, though. Left side, Marky Sparky using that ultimate defensively.
And it does buy him some time, but Distortion just doesn't miss. Catches Marky Sparky on the dash.
And I was going to say how, like, I would be more fearful of the teacher seeing the note and then kind of putting me on blast.
Oh yeah, they would. They were big fans of that back in the day. Kana forced into the ultimate to disengage from VGSGods' pressure on the right-hand side, but looking left, Distortion going to keep on pushing, has some help from SARPEII there as well. This should end up being a good trade for Arial Arise once they get this tier 2.
Teleport was available for Bevy, but I think it's too little too late now.
He should get the teleport off, but he won't have a tower there to defend, which is actually be in more trouble than it was worth. Pulled back in, Sanctified Field. Lawbringer is available, but he doesn't even get it off in time. SARPEII gets 1 kill onto Bevy, and they lost Ecliptics.
Ollie trying to time up his ultimate there. Oh, actually, it was used already, so he's just a sitting duck.
And Drizzle misses the Sacred Monkey that might have been enough to take down Ollie. Instead, they walk the tightrope and keep him alive, and Distortion rotates underneath now. Hacky in some trouble as well. Knocked up, stuck inside the damage, and Kana finds one more. Arial Arise are right back in it.
Just a powerful team now grouping up when they have these advantages. They took out Marky Sparky like 1 minute ago, and then with that one-player advantage, they really started pulling and pushing VGSGods to their whip, forcing a rotation on the left side, killing out Bevy, forcing a team fight in the mid, the counter rotation as well. This is how you use your numbers to your advantage.
Arial Arise did that perfectly. I do wonder how much of it, though, do you put on Bevy? That teleport was late getting there, and then because of it, he was in a 2v1 with no tower support and great positioning from Distortion and the squad to rotate underneath. That, I think it had a trickle, like, knock-on effect.
He needed to Lawbringer away, like, almost instantly, because once he gets knocked up in the Sanctified Field, that, like, what is that, half a second knockup becomes about a 1 second knockup. Is so hard to really get away from that. And Tier is great at avoiding CC with his passive, but not knockups.
Let's go around, take a look on these builds. SARPEII has been willing to build Brawler's Beatstick early when required. He did it here yet again into the Transcendence 3rd item. Look at this build from Kana. The Breastplate of Valor is about it as far as pure tankiness. Everything else is hybrid. He'll be doing decent damage this time. The Blackthorn there from Pulse is pretty standard. He'll have some damage as well. I'm liking this build here so far from all of Arial Arise. Hacky is in some trouble, and he could fall.
Oh, but first it's going to be SARPEII, because on the side, it's all Ecliptics.
That was a huge fight so far, but Distortion looking to answer back, is able to find Drizzle, but now he's stuck with Bevy, and this is not the 1v1 that Distortion wants to take. Pulsza trying to come in to give him a little bit of backup, but Hacky making life difficult. There's the evade and punish over the wall from Ecliptics, and they find one more. VGSGods the one not ready to be pushed out the picture yet.
With a World Serpent, couldn't really make an impact there. He was the one with the late rotation this time around. Now the Blink Horus looking for a little bit of poke damage. No real AoE healing outside of Marky Sparky's hearts that they really need if they want to confirm this Oni Fury.
So it looks like they won't. Arial Arise at the very least do enough to stop any objectives from going down, but finally a big fight there from VGSGods, and that starts with a big commit onto Hacky.
They really did put themselves a little vulnerable on their level 10 Ganesha at the time so that they can set up all their AoE ultimates. Dharmic Pillars, Fear No Evil, the Loves of Field, as it was just so easy for Ecliptics to use that distraction of those 3 ultimates to get off so many pot shots from the side.
Ecliptics, man, when he's able to have a good fight, it looks so much different for VGSGods. They've got to make sure that he's alive and and has strong positioning in the next engage that they take. When he's able to get off multiple evades and punish, multiple hieroglyphic assaults, those are the fight VGSGods are winning.
I mean, you can see by his player damage how accurate he currently is. Normally it's the soul laners that have that top player damage.
But Distortion's been there too. Good Fear No Evil buys some time for Bevy, but the Fields of Love leaves something to be desired. Drizzle now blinking in, but he doesn't have the Fear No Evil here this time. He immediately goes on the retreat. Ollie blinks in to try and claim the scalp, but instead will not be able to find it. Bevy still surviving even now, and SARPEII has to retreat, but Marky Sparky won't let him. It's 1-for-1.
Ecliptics no longer with us on the battleground of the gods, but Arial Arise looking for the chase down. They take out a second VGS member as Marky gonna get knocked up and taken out.
No surprise, Ecliptics goes down early and Arial Arise wins the fight quite handily. I imagine that'll be a decent recipe for them going forward as they head right back to Oni Fury.
Dying with Final Judgment not the spot you want to be in from your mid laner, but sometimes you just go down a little too quickly. Good zoning from Kana as Arial confirmed their second objective. First one was stolen, second one was theirs, rightfully so. And I think the ultimate from VGSGods, a little lackluster in that team fight compared to the previous one. The Fields of Love, not really connecting onto anyone. Lawbringer was forced to be used defensively.
Their strong engagement from Arial Arise, but you saw VGSGods a couple of fights ago show us what they have, and as long as they've got these ultimates, the Fear No Evil, the Fields of Love, the Dharmic Pillars, Final Judgment, they've got the kind of tools that can turn a team fight even into this big lead for Arial Arise. It's just that they have to be perfect because of how far behind they've allowed themselves to become. If things were more even, they'd have a huge margin for error.
Oh, I definitely agree. They need to force the fights on their own prerogative, but that last one, they kind of got caught out there as Hacky was out of position. He was forced to retreat, but he couldn't do so the way he wanted to, as we're going to probably see Arial Arise use this wave now as a little buffer to start controlling vision on the right side. Like, look how much sentry wards they have. 4 across the board, just now dropping it. So this Fire Giant side, if VGSGods aren't careful, they could easily get picked off.
This does feel like a Fire Giant push with all this information, and Bevy forced into the Lawbringer early on. There is the stun into the knockup, into another knockup from Kana. Bevy dead to rights here now. They did use a couple ultimates for it, but they've removed one of the biggest threats. But Ollie vanishes. He pops like a pimple. Drizzle gets the kill credit.
He had beads if he wanted to use it there, but I think he was going to be dead to all the follow-up damage regardless. Going for an aggressive Blink Relic as opposed to the Aegis.
Right, and without something like an Aegis, I think there's no way he makes it out of that one. So that is enough, I think, for VGSGods. Even though they lose Bevy to slow down the Fire Giant push, Ariel can certainly commit to this Pyromancer as they're currently doing and can feel relatively good about it. But hold on, what's Olorun? They are going to take a look at the Fire Giant here, Anatoly. They've already got it started, and SARPEII on zone duty.
There's a ward from VGSGods right at the feet of Kana. Hacky trying to get his way there. SARPEII is not letting it be easy, though.
But Hacky's close, but they're going to turn around and stun him. Can't get Dharmic Pillars off in time. That's Arial Arise at the Fire Giant. Perfect zoning from SARPEII and the pick, and AA now in control.
Marky Sparky was in mid lane clearing the wave, and now he's forced to use that ultimate just to keep SARPEII at bay for a moment, using the hearts to heal up. Marky should have been making that rotation on the Fire Giant to contest. That Fields of Love is so good at disrupting the FG.
Instead, Marky was not there for that defense, and I thought that taking down Ollie in trade for Bevy might have been enough, where Arial Arise wouldn't feel comfortable dropping FG, but they just turned to it immediately. They had so much information they invested with all those wards, like you pointed out.
Yeah, and this is kind of how you allow a lead to naturally develop into something more. You use that small lead to control the vision, you catch somebody out of position. Hacky was forced to wrap around that right side mid camps, and he was identified every step of the way. Arial Arise doing a good job confirming the FG.
Drizzle with a defensive ultimate in the middle lane to help him get away from Pulsza and Ollie. I think he had the right call there. VGSGods down about 9k. I don't know if this is the time to defend on tier 2s, but you do have to make your defense somewhere, and they want SARPEII. He's alone in the jungle, but SARPEII nearly takes a whole life by himself. Beads allows him to reposition. In comes Pulsza to try and help out, avoids the Final Judgment and the Turn of Fate coming out from the Ganesha, and just like that, SARPEII has put his team in a good spot.
Oh, the World Serpent coming through. Kana lands right on top of ECLPTX, but the dive is not stopping yet. They take him out, they take out Hacky. They're even going to eliminate Marky Sparky. Bevy's next on the chopping block, using the Lawbringer, not enough.
No, that might just be the game. They still need a Phoenix. I know they're diving past. They'll go to mid-Phoenix because SARPEII is there with a minion wave, and Ollie's starting to laugh a little bit. Some of that spam starting to come out. It might just be the end here of this game. It's only Drizzle with no fear, no evil to try and make a defense happen. There it is. It comes back up, as I said, but he dies anyway for a deicide. AA take the set 2-0.
It's a little slower than game number 1, but at the end of the day, they get the job done.
Maybe like the lead, but it wasn't faster in the game.
Oh, that's true,
yeah,
actually.
It was 26-26,
That's right, yeah. 23 minutes there. That just goes to show that you can't give up anything to Arial Arise. And with that victory now, There's still a little bit of contention between Arial and also OutCold Gaming, but mathematically, VGS are now out of the running.
And VGS were that third place, so I really do think this has become kind of a two-horse race now up near the top between OutCold, your MSI representatives, and then Arial Arise, who feel a little bit like the new wave here on PS4 EU. They have been playing so well. And you know what I loved so much about this one? I talked a lot about SARPEII and Ollie coming into this and how that combo is so key to this team, but Kana and Distortion really stepped up this game too.
They really did. Kana's early start wasn't as successful as the first one. Good adaptations from VGS. Marky Sparky was present at level 1 to make sure that this Jormungandr wasn't going to proxy successfully, almost killing the Jormungandr, but despite all that, it just still wasn't enough to stop the train.
Well, you finally got to see a little bit of what VGSGods were capable of there in Game 2, but it still was not enough. Arial Arise confidently take that set 2-0. We got Xbox EU, though, on the docket for you. We'll have that on the other side of this break.